All right, I remember. So, and if your problem with Christ as like a speaker, as a philosopher, is that he used the terms Son of God and Messiah and things, it's just like it's talking in the terms of the time. It's talking in the understood technologies of the time. He used the technologies of Judaism and his social circumstances in order to express himself in a way that people would understood. It's the same as if some enlightened being appeared in front of you right now, but they were using the terms "I've awakened out of the simulation," and we are all in the simulation, and that would just be like the modern terminology, and so you can't really hold it against him. Like, how else was he supposed to express this form of connectedness in the place that he was at? It's just beautiful, and you see it with all of the religions that preach love. That you see that they express these same ideas in their own, in the terms of their place and time.
Right.
And I think that's the value in religion. I think that the value in religion is that there are these different paths towards happiness and wholeness with the world, and this state of happiness and wholeness probably has something to it because the religions exist, and that's all they need to be. It's like they're like a draw towards why you might want to be good. It's just a little reward on top of the reward of being good in the first place. And if you would twist that for hate and bastardize that, you're one of the sickest beings that could possibly exist as a consciousness.
I'm going to admit I was probably one of those at one point. Then I got more open-minded, and I'm like...
Well, no, I'm not saying... I feel like you've taken that as if I said disparaging against religion. Is that what you feel? Let me be more specific.
Please do,
I
so I
believe...
can understand.
I'm talking specifically towards the people that would use religion as an excuse to be hateful. For example,
you're talking about that now.
Yes, you do not apply to that group. No.
Okay, I was going for
let me just finish, and then we'll be on your topic. And I love your topic. It's just, just like the Christian, some of the modern Christians, and how they use their religion as a sponge for stress, and something that's stressful is hate, and they hate the gays, and so they put that upon their religion so that it doesn't have to stress them out. And now we're talking about you.
Okay, at one point, do you know what the church of, or the satanic church is?
I do.
Okay. It is basically an atheist group that does not actually believe among the actual of Satan. The whole church is based on making fun of Christians.
Yes, and even as an almost parody of a religion.
Yes.
You see in the satanic church these elements you see in other religions of connectedness and wholeness. It even in this parody of what religion is supposed to be, you have the genuine truths that can lead you towards a sense of wholeness, which are take care of the people around you, care for those who need help, do not be hateful to those around you. And
if you ever read the stuff that they put on their thing, they seem like a really nice organization.
They believe in science, empirical research, and they believe in the betterment of mankind. And I think most religions are just trying to give you a way to get to that connectedness.
Actually, I still like what they do. I just don't want to really make fun of a different religion.
Yeah, some people Some people do get the dopamine from that, though. People that were abused in church and just, other people that like to poke fun at established groups, they'll always do that. And those people exist within other groups as well, within Christian groups and whatnot. They'll make parody like gay groups that are for just explicitly for hate. They'll like parody they'll parody political opinions that they don't like in order to disparage them. And if that's not just exactly what the satanic church is doing, then I don't know what is. It's equivalent. Both everyone's doing it. And that doesn't mean the parody is good or that it naturally is supported, but it is partaken like behavior on both sides, so neither side can really judge it.
Right. Now I've just completely went like agnostic.
Yeah, I think that's where most people lie. I would say the only reason I consider myself a part of Christian mysticism is because of how heavily I'm influenced by the teachings of Christ, very specifically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I feel about believing in a God. I would probably say I lean towards it being unlikely. And yet, I would consider myself a Christian because I follow the teachings of a specific man, Christ, who created a religion based upon his teachings called Christianity, and thus, by following those teachings and living by them, whether or not I didn't choose to follow Christianity, they just happen to be the ones that I align with, and probably because those are the ones I grew up in. And so it's like, I grew up with the natural knowing that, like, hating gays is wrong. The hate is wrong because Jesus specifically says, like, word for word, that hate is wrong. And so it's like, yes, from a child that was being hammered into my brain. And so at this point, it's no surprise that I'm all about this take care of everyone and don't be hateful type beat. Because it's like, this is, I've soaked it in. I've learned what I was supposed to be taught. Thank you.
I grew up in a little bit more different type of churches. Mine were a lot more hostile towards people.
I was fairly lucky. There was very little speak of hate in the, like, sermons that we had. Usually, we were getting, like, parables about Jesus himself. Like, I know with a lot of Christian groups, you can only really guarantee that on, like, Easter type deals. But with our whatever sect of Christianity I was in, we would just talk primarily about what Jesus said and what he did and the stories he told. And it's like, at some point, that's going to sink in.
I think the Christianity that I disagree with is more of the Pentecostal views of it.
Oh, yes.
That's what I grew up in.
I would say that hate is not an allowed part of Christianity if you follow it, right? But
yeah.
That is not to say that there are sects of Christianity that follow the book to the letter and yet are still imposing unpleasantness upon their parish. Like, it's not biblically inaccurate to make them dress a certain way or to make them act or speak a certain way, If you're following the book to the letter, then you might want to follow those procedures as well, And then it's up to the individual person to decide whether or not that freedom is important to them.
I think most of my negativities toward Christianity was due to Pentecostal beliefs in Christianity.
I'm not surprised. It's the more conservative groups of Christianity that are the scarier ones.
The ones that I, like, I see that I enjoy a little bit more because the people I've been around are more Catholic belief.
Yeah. I'd like to rephrase from saying scary. I don't think scary is the right term. They're more intimidating, for certain. Like,
Because
yeah.
yeah, like the people that I work with are primarily Catholic kind of Christianity.
Yeah.
And like they completely believe in gay rights.
Right.
They even actually like really happy for them.
It's like the Pope came out and said that being gay is not a sin. And
yeah, and he's Catholic.
If I'm listening to people who are knowledgeable about Christianity, that's the guy. That's the guy. That's the guy that like decides what modern Christianity is. That's the guy that decides that like my mother doesn't decide what Christianity means, and the Pope doesn't decide what Christianity means, but he certainly has more authority on the matter than my mother does, and the Pope says that hating the gays is wrong, because hate is wrong. And my mother says that I want to hate the gays because in Scripture it says to hate the gays. And it's just like, are you gonna follow the teachings of Christ or not? Is my question.
I really want to go to a Catholic church just because how beautiful they are.
I do like the experience. As boring as church could be for me, church services, once you take yourself out of the initial, man, I remember how much it sucked being in church. Once you take yourself out of the initial, man, I hate that I was exposed to this religion. Once you look at it like you're experiencing a new religion for the first time, when you're like experiencing Buddhism for the first time or the Hare Krishnas, you just take it in, you observe the ritual, you try and let it sink in, you try and feel what the other people are feeling, and it's interesting. It's an experience.
Yeah.
It's not like I won't go to church every Sunday to get that experience, but it is unique and valuable and interesting, and it can be beautiful just like any other religious service.
With what I have learned about the Catholics so far, with the people that I've worked with, they are not mandatory to go to church every Sunday. They just go to church whenever they feel like
Jesus said you didn't have to go to church every Sunday. Jesus said you don't have to pray in front of people for him to hear you.
For the knowledge that I've seen,
Jesus was like praying fucking private. If
Catholics are the most Christian you can be.
Yes. Yeah, I do think, I think there would be a tendency to say more or less Christian is an unfair, label to put on things. But
yes.
Hold on. I'm going to give you a reason why I think it is a fair label to put on things. There is a level of which you are following the teachings of the Lord Christ. Right? If you are following the teachings less, like if you are doing less of what he said to do, you are less Christian than a person who is doing more of what he said to do. And I think that's a pretty linear scale.
I would like to go to a Catholic church with you one time. Maybe not as a service thing.
Yeah.
But maybe just to look around at the art and stuff like that.
I did. Yeah, I know some good churches we could go to. I know some very good churches.
Do some of them allow you to go during
absolutely.
the daytime, anytime?
Yes.
Any
absolutely.
day?
Yes.
Just to sit.
Yes. My grandfather had his funeral in a beautiful church with green velvet pews, and it's all dark wood and stained glass, and
that sounds amazing.
It's like the ideal what you think of when you're like, this is a Midwestern but old American church, and
I
it's
would
very
like
pretty.
to one time
The
go into
organ
one of
in the back is
Gothic-
fucking huge and insane, and it looks amazing. It's steampunk, and it's gothic, and it's it's Victorian, and it's
love like the Catholic churches you would see from like Corpse Bride.
Oh yes,
where it has like the dark stone, the organ in the back.
yes.
But I really want to go see one of them just to sit and look
you
around
and
just chill.
If you and I ever make it to Europe, we should do a tour of churches, I think.
Another place I would like to go to one time in my entire life, to go to China and go to one of their Buddhist churches.
Yes, I would.
Buddhist temples.
I would love that. I would really enjoy that, I think. I don't want to go to the, like, biggest ones, because I just don't know if I agree with the mass conformity and the, like, I don't know. There are some dark sides to that, to the larger ones, where
yes,
they're like, I don't know, social elements to. I don't know how to describe this.
I want to go to the
I don't want to
ones
be disparaging, but it's like people are expected to go through it, or you're held to a very specific standard in order, not in order to, but
I want to go to ones that truly believe in like inner peace.
Yes, I want to go see like Buddhist temples in Nepal would be amazing. Just
that would work too.
Just where they truly believe in the silence of the self, quieting the mind, and trying to, if you're listening to anything at all, you're trying to listen to the universe, and otherwise, you're trying to listen to nothing. And I think meditation is so applicable to other religions just because it being the foundation of Buddhism, the core tenet, it's a very powerful single practice to implement.
Okay, Buddhism isn't like there's no God involved.
Right.
It is.
There are versions where there are, but but for the very most part, almost every version of Buddhism does not believe that Buddha is a god. Yes.
Yes, Buddha is not a god. He was just really intelligent.
Very intelligent, very wise, very demure, very mindful.
Actually, it was a little bit less mindful.
I consider them.
He just kind of.
I consider
meditates.
them. No, that's like supposedly the ultimate form of mindfulness.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's mindfulness practices come from Buddhism, first and foremost. And I just see him and Christ as like the same figure. They did the same thing. And I imagine were I to look into Islam, I would find Muhammad to be the same. I imagine I've been told that the three are analogs all throughout my life, and analyzing Christianity with a critical lens and Buddhism with a critical lens, they teach the same things in terms of connectedness and wholeness and care.
I don't believe it's all the same person. I just believe
no, I don't think it's the same person. I mean, when I say I think of them as the same person, I mean it like entirely metaphorically. I mean, they serve the same function as a person in society. They were both, to use a label that we would understand in society, they were both the president. I think of them as both the president, but in terms of mindfulness and religion.
They're all at the same level of mindfulness.
Yes, they attain
they can correspond with each other.
Yes, they're all on the same to use a New Age term, they're all on the same wavelength. You know, it seems like there is some form of truth to this idea that if you are loving and caring and genuine, you will attain a form of happiness that you can't attain by lashing out at the world and being angry at the things that you don't understand, right? Like every religion tries to teach this.
Humans are social creatures, so
and
why
now
not have
psychology
good
is trying to
social-
teach this. You know, mindfulness practices are now being implemented in psychological practices because of course they are. And some would say science is just a different form of religion. I don't know if I would agree with that or not, but it certainly is growing mindfulness out of it as a way to make people happy, like every religion that has come before it.
It's better to have good social encounters than bad social encounters.
You're just right.
So
on a binary scale, there is a
love.
1 and a 0. That is bad experience and good experience. And that's base level human understanding, right? And so, if you have even the smallest, tiniest imagination of empathy for another person, you can want their 0 to be a 1. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And wanting that, it makes you so much happier than wanting their 1 to be a 0. And it just seems so easy to see, to understand.
I also love Norse mythology too, because
Norse mythology is fucking metal.
They also want happiness among everyone.
Yeah,
Greek,
but also Thor raped and killed like a lot of people. The Norse gods were kind of a lot like the Greek gods in terms of like fucking around with humanity.
Yes, but they also the whole like Viking also is
yes, the Vikings.
Tupac said what the Viking or the Norse already said.
Vikings were a relatively progressive society, yes. Like, they were a violent society, don't get me wrong, but their women were in positions of power in combat. They respected each other, and they would bathe regularly.
What they said was, I may not like you, but I don't want you to go hungry, and I don't want you to sit at my table.
Right, they're the kind of people you think of when you think of they will wrestle and argue and bat each other over the head at the dinner table. And then as soon as there is some foe that appears, all of them are as stalwart allies as they can possibly be.
Yes,
and I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing to aspire to, you know? I see the masculine crowd like moving towards like the Viking aesthetic, and I don't necessarily think that's toxic in its nature.
It's the same mindset as I do.
I think you can bring in forms of mindfulness with this. Go on, sorry.
I can be an asshole to my friends, but if someone else does it, that means war.
Right. Yeah, I mean I think a lot of people would agree with you. I think a lot of people would agree with that sentiment.
I don't believe this is a statement of gender, but it was like love your brothers.
Right.
It's not, brothers is not whole gender or sex thing.
Right.
They said it to their women warriors also.
It's like yes. It's like, gosh, I understand that we don't want to apply gendered terms to people, but gendered terms can have their own like powerful connotations that can be applied to any gender. You know, you can call a woman brother and mean the closest bond you can have in arms with a person. You can call a man sister and the same occur. And I think, you know, I want everyone to identify with what they identify with, right? But that doesn't mean we have to lash out specifically at at the terminology that people have used and enjoy using. You know?
Yes.
Like, the language will change over time. That's undeniable. The effect of Tolkien, and now the word they changing grammatically, it's okay. It happens. But it will happen without our fighting for it. We don't need to fight for the words to change. They're going to change as our minds change, and that's okay.
All of this will change just because it did. There's no one gonna be like forcibly changing things. It's just gonna change without anyone ever thinking about it.
The harder you try, the less you'll attain what you want. If you're fighting so hard for justice, you'll never have the time to just kind of sit back and be a kind I don't know if I want to say that. I don't know if I agree with that.
What?
The statement I was making just then, I don't think I agree with it. I want to...
What was it anyway?
It was like, if you... Oh...